Hello and welcome to this program. January to December 1966 was one of the most tumultuous, chaotic, and dangerous period in Nigerian national history. A lot happened barely 6 years after independence. Political leaders were assassinated. Military leaders were assassinated. Consequence upon the military coup d'etat of January 15th, 1966. A counter coup followed on the 29th July 1966. This is a special anniversary edition of happenings, of events that culminated into the Civil War and after. But in particular, one major landmark event that ushered in more chaos and crisis was the event of 28th and 29th July 1966, when the Supreme Commander of the Nigerian Armed Forces, Major General JTU Aguiyi Ironsi, was killed in Ibadan. We have the rare privilege and opportunity to discuss with one of the leading lights of this country, an elder statesman, a highly successful entrepreneur, a mentor to many. I can go on endlessly. Our guest was a military officer, former governor of Kano State when it was Kano and Jigawa. He was ambassador to Zimbabwe. He chaired one of the early merchant banks in Nigeria. But the key issue we are going to discuss today was the events of 28th and 29th July 1966, when he was the ADC to the Supreme Commander, Major General JTU Aguiyi Ironsi. Viewers, join me in welcoming Col.Sani Bello Rtd. Sir, you are welcome to this program.
Thank you very much.
Sir, let's start even on a very lighter note. You went to Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst, when you joined the military. How did it happen you just joined? What were the motivation to join the army at that time?
First of all, thank you very much for having me on this program. We're talking about 60 years, which is like yesterday. It has come, it has gone. Start from the beginning. I joined the army on 10th of December 1962 and went for a preliminary training at then Nigeria Military Training College, which was later on succeeded by NDA, Nigeria Defense Academy, for 6 months. After that, we are all separated in various countries of the world. Some went to India, some went to UK too. Some people went to Mons, and some people went to Sandhurst. I was one of the 5 that went to Sandhurst in that year. So Sandhurst was a two-year training. After that, I came back after commissioning in 1965. I came back to Nigeria. I was immediately posted to then Enugu 1st Battalion, the Nigerian Army. At that time, the company I was posted into was also involved in an operation in Benue. So obviously, I went straight to Benue to start my officer career. It was in Benue that I had my first platoon commander's position. I was there until December 10th. So January 10th, 1966. I was replaced and went back to Enugu. So I went back to Enugu on January 10th. The business as usual. Everything was normal. Until the night of January 15th, 1966. At night, there was a double, a kind of bugle for everybody to come out. Another parade late at night. We came out. We were then told there was a military takeover. I was second lieutenant, by the way, I was second lieutenant then. Obviously, we had to do what we should do. The Nigerian Army, the infantry battalion Enugu, from there quickly started deploying us to various positions. In my case, for that night, we were asked to go to Benin, Midwest then, to take over the government of Benin under the Premier Denis Osadebe. My company commander then was one Captain Joseph Hegdubu. So when we went there, we got there very early in the morning, before His Excellency woke up, and deployed our troops already. Early in the morning, around 7 or thereabout, my company commander and I went and knocked at the door. A well-dressed, smart butler came out and asked my company commander, "What do you want so early in the morning?" My commander said, "We want to see the Premier." The butler said, "Premier now? It's too early." I said, "Go and wake him up." He said, "No." There was a kind of exchange of words between the butler and my company commander. At the end of the day, the butler gave in and went and told His Excellency that there are some soldiers coming so early, want to see him. There were no soldiers in Benin by then, actually. So His Excellency came, after a while, he came down. As we were coming down, my commanding officer and I stood up and gave him a smart salute. After the salute, my company commander said, "I'm directed to come and take over your government." The Premier was shocked. He said, "You must be joking." He said, "No, sir, I'm not joking. If you think I'm joking, look through the window." His Excellency, I think, looked through the window and saw soldiers deployed. He gave in. And the story starts from there. Well, we were there for a while. Then obviously, we were told we had to call back to Enugu immediately. After we drove with the government, and then ourselves too, out of fear, because we were told there were another dissident troops coming from Lagos to Enugu to punish Enugu for not participating fully in the coup. And because of fear that as a company we could be cut off from the main battalion and be dealt with severely, were withdrawn quickly back to Enugu. So we ran back to Enugu. I started taking defensive position, waiting for the potential dissidents to come and attack Enugu. But they never made it. I think the armored vehicles got halted in Ore. So that began the journey of the coups for January 1966. So after that, governors were appointed. By that time, later, General David Ejo, but then he was a colonel, lieutenant colonel, was the commanding officer of the battalion. So he was posted to go and take over, to become governor of Midwest, that's Benin. So he picked us. He picked his adjutant then, Shehu Aradua. He picked one Lieutenant McIver and myself to go to Benin. Shehu Aradua was then the adjutant. Lieutenant Aradua then was the adjutant of the battalion. So after a while, he was relieved to go back and look after his battalion. It was not fair for the battalion to be stripped of both the commanding officer and the adjutant of the battalion. So he went back, leaving only McIver as ADC, to Governor Ejo, and myself as a staff officer. After a while, I was called back to Enugu. And I was in Enugu for a short while, doing what I should do as a platoon commander, attending guard duties, and the lot. Then one day, a signal came to me. I was not even around. I think in Onisha or somewhere like that I should report back to Enugu quickly. So I went back to Enugu. When I got back to Enugu, the adjutant then, Lieutenant Aradua, said, well, the commanding officer has nominated you to go and to attend the interview, ADC selection interview of the Supreme Commander. I said, wow, I'm a second lieutenant. He said, yes, we all know. I said, you think? He said, I don't think. I tell you. I said, okay. Land Rover was ready. The following one, I think it happened to be a Saturday. I was in Lagos from Enugu. On my way, I stopped at Benin, where I was for some time with the governor there. He asked me, son, where are you going? I said, I'm going to Enugu. I'm going to Lagos to attend Supreme Commander's ADC interview. He said, well, I wish you luck. And early in the morning, I left. I went to Lagos. The same day, I continued to Lagos. I got to Lagos fairly late, around 4-ish or so, or 5. I met the ADC then, who would have been my outgoing agency. One Captain Sylvester Onyekwe. By that, he was a captain. Fortunately for me, Captain Sylvester Onyekwe and I were at Sandhurst together. He was my senior when I got to Sandhurst. So we knew each other from Sandhurst. So as soon as I got to his office, he said, Sani, why are you here? I said, my battalion said I should come for ADC selection interview. He just smiled. He said, the interview has finished. Everybody has gone. You are late. I said, sir. He said, why are you late? I said, I don't know. This is how my battalion asked me to come. He said, wow. He said, what? I think you should go back. I said, okay, sir. I saluted. I was about to leave. Of course, after we discussed a lot about life at Sandhurst, how he left, how things were. After they left, we were just about to leave. Then he said, so let me wait. Let me talk to the Chief of Staff, to the Supreme Commander, one Brigadier Ogundupe, to tell him that you are here. I said, okay, sir. So I waited. He used an open intercom. He says, Second Lieutenant Bello from 1st Battalion is here to attend the AD selection board, AD selection. I didn't like the reception from the Brigadier General. Ogundupe bellowed. He said, did I hear you say Second Lieutenant? We have no business with Second Lieutenant, this headquarters. Why should the Second Lieutenant even be sent in the first instance? Of course, Sylvester had no answer. He said, I don't know, sir. The battalion sent him, and he's here. He went on and on and on, saying all sorts of things reprimanding everybody from the battalion commander to myself. He said, look, tell him to go. We have no business with second lieutenant in this headquarters. So the said, yes, sir. Then he turned to me and said, Sani, you had? I said, yes, I had all. He said, okay. I think you should go out. Do you want accommodation for tonight? I said, no, I'm going back to Benin. He said, okay. Safe journey. I just saluted and turned back, about to get out of his office. The intercom called back again. This time it's from the brigadier, from the chief of staff. He said, Sylvester, he said, sir, is that second lieutenant still around? He said, he's just about to leave. He said, tell him to wait. My God, the way he said it frightened the hell out of me. To wait, why? What he said, they had no time for me, why should I wait? Anyway, I waited. After a while, he asked the ADC Sylvester to match me in. Match me in. As if I committed an offense. I was marched into the chief of staff's office. There, the language was not soft at all. You were visibly hostile, visibly angry. That second lieutenant, that first battalion was not living by the rules, by the book. They were clearly told that they should send a captain with more than 2 to 3 years experience in the unit. And they sent a second lieutenant with less than 1 year in the unit. So I don't like to tell you what he went on. It left for me to absorb. All the reprimands given for me to take to my commanding officer, I took it to myself. Because I could not say all the reprimand I received from the chief of staff back to my commanding officer if I went back to Enugu. So then he said, wait, the supreme commander may see you and give you another rocket to take to your commanding officer. A rocket is like a reprimand. I can tell you my trial was shaking. Yeah, the brigadier, this is the first time I'm coming face to face with the brigadier general in Nigeria. So I was waiting. Then suddenly Sylvester came in from his office and spoke to the chief of staff. He said, the supreme commander said he wants me to take the second lieutenant to his office. He didn't ask the chief of staff to take me, which was surprising. Anyway, he said, okay, you can go. So I got up and we went to the supreme commander's office. When we entered, I saluted. He didn't even look at me. He was apparently looking at something under his table. I don't know what he was looking at, or reading something. Then, later on, after I saluted, he didn't even look at me. I stood there at attention. The next time he raised his head, he said, why shall I call you Sani or Bello? The temperature was totally different. From the first time reception I received from his chief of staff to him, it was totally different. I didn't know what to say. I said, you can call me either name, sir, or both of them. I said, okay. Then he turned to Sylvester. He said, Sylvester, he said, sir, have you shown Sani his room? Sylvester was taken aback. His room, sir? He said, yes, his room. He will take over for you. He said, no, sir. He said, okay, go and introduce him to madam and the children. Then he said, will you start work? I think it was Saturday. Will you start work on Monday? I said, no, sir, I'm coming here for an interview. He said, the interview has finished before you got here. I said, yes, sir. And I'm coming for an Enugu. He said, yes, we know. So he said, okay, you can come back by Wednesday. I said, yes, sir. I wouldn't like to stretch my luck anymore because I was already offered a first choice and I said no. And now to be offered second choice, you don't say no again. So I said, yes, sir. Well, I made it from Lagos to Enugu. I'm back before Wednesday was my problem. Anyway, I saluted. He said, see you on Wednesday. and we left with Sylvester. So when we got, Sylvester went and introduced me to Madame to say, Ma, this is Sani Bello. We were together with him at Sandhurst. He was my junior at Sandhurst, blah, blah, blah. All the good things. He was a good boy. He used to play football with us. We were at the same college. All the nice things. Sylvester made a good introduction. And then he will go and he'll come and take over from me, and ultimately he will be the ADC. He'll be communicating with him. That's why Oga said I should come and introduce him to you. So after that, I left for Enugu. I came back, got back, became ADC. I joined the other ADCs. When I came, I found there are 3 other ADCs. The Navy, the Air Force, and Police. And now with me, the Army, that makes 4 ADCs to Spring Commander. Perhaps you may ask, what do they do? What does Spring Commander need to do with 4 ADCs? The Navy was literally a rear commander among the house. He handled the logistics of the house. The Police was dealing with police affairs, like security, like contact with the police, any kind of contact with the police, investigations, and what have you. And the Air Force was essentially doing mostly, if there's any presidential credentials, his primary duty is to go and escort the ambassador designate, and also escort the ambassador back to his residence after he met the Supreme Commander. And myself, the overseer. Of all the 4 of us, I was the youngest, and also, except for the Air Force, I was the most junior. The Navy had somebody called Lieutenant Dennis Okujagu. I think he rose later on to the Admiral of the Navy. He was lieutenant even then, which was equivalent to an army captain. And the Police had a DSP, Timothy Pam, a fine gentleman, very hardworking, very good, a very good cop, very experienced. And the Air Force, of course, had Andrew Mwanko, who later on rose to become, after the coup, he became a senator, I think in the First Republic or so. And of course myself, that I'm here. But every time the Supreme Commander was going out, it's always with me and any other 2, except Dennis Okujagu. Dennis Okujagu is permanently at home, the Navy, permanently at home. That's the system. That was how it was working. And all the visits we are going, after we are going, all outside visits were there. I was only ADC staying in the house. So all communications, all contacts to the Supreme Commander had to come through my office, either my bedroom or my office. The other ADCs were staying outside the State House, except me.
Now, let's get to Ibadan.
Oof.
How can you reflect on the encounter of the 28th, 29th of July, 1966?
Well, as I told you earlier on, anytime the Supreme Commander was going out, I had to be there. So as usual, I was there. And this time, he took me, Timothy Pam, and Andrew Mwanko, a supporting ADCs. So when we got to Ibadan, I wouldn't like to go back through we went through the route to Ibadan. We went to Ibadan, we arrived on 28th. We were supposed to have a cocktail party in Ibadan on that 28th, between 7 to 8. But last minute, the Supreme Commander changed it. He said, no, let's have it 6 to 7. We had no choice. We didn't know what happened. Why? He might have some kind of inclination or knowledge which we didn't have. So we changed it. We had the cocktail party as usual. I'm waiting for the following morning to do what took us to Ibadan. We didn't go to Ibadan because we wanted because Supreme Commander wanted just to go to Ibadan and see Ibadan. He went to Ibadan because he wanted to address that the Council of Traditional Rulers of the emirs, obas, and obis of Nigeria. They all concentrated in Ibadan on that 28th, waiting for the 29th to be addressed by the Supreme Commander. I don't know what the address was going to be like. So on the night of 28th, I think around 2 o'clock.
In the morning?
In the morning, 2 a.m. of 29th. The alarm bell started ringing. The Commissioner of Police of Western State then, they were called Western State. As you know, by that time, years have been abolished.
Right.
Called me, because we were staying, I think I should have given a kind of description of how Ibadan Government House looked then. It has 2 wings. One wing facing the quarter guard and the other wing inside, backyard. This wing, the ADCs, all the ADCs of us were here there. And including late Faju's ADC, the governor of Western States. So, plus us, plus one other young man, Thomas Aguiyi Ironsi, the son of the Supreme Commander, who was then a student and came on leave, and probably wanted to see Ibadan or just to enjoy, like most young people like to enjoy traveling. So he came with us. So we were there when the Commissioner of Police, Western State, said there was an uprising in Abeokuta. I think Abeokuta, yes. So the Commander said, we told him there's an uprising. We said, okay, we should start getting ready to get into uniform. So we got into uniform. A few minutes afterwards, Faju called his ADC, the governor, said he's noticed a Land Rover coming in. He should go and investigate. So the name of his ADC was called Abi Umar. He too was in 1st Battalion. What I forgot to mention was that initially Fajwi was a commanding officer in 1st Battalion. But by the time we came in, he was involved in another train in Abeokuta. He was doing some kind of special duty in Abeokuta. But when he appointed governor, he took his adjutant, who was called Abi Umar. So Abi Umar went to investigate about the Land Rover which was sent. As he was going out, there was a fire, one shot of some machine gun. And then there was a return fire of a pistol. And then it was followed by a salvo of some machine gun. So to us, the rest ADC, we thought Abi Umar was killed. We waited. Then after that, we had the Commissioner of Police of Lagos State called. The uprising has spread to Ikeja, and we should tell the Supreme Commander. This is about 3:34. So we told him. Because we were told things that they are doing something to control the situation. We're there in suspense. We don't know what happened. There was shooting. For me, I thought the situation was getting bad. And unfortunately, I was just coming back from Sandhurst. I literally did not know any officer, any of my colleagues. And from my class, we were about 9. that went to the army. I only knew the location of only one of them, late Ibrahim Umar. He was in Abeokuta. So I called him to find out what was happening. I called him, I said, Ibrahim. He said, yes. I said, it's very hot here. He said, it's hotter here.
Wow.
In Abeokuta. By that time, they have killed quite a number of officers in Abeokuta. So he said, I asked him, he said, what are you doing? I said, well, we're waiting to see our fate, but so far we had only one shot. We don't know what's happening. He said, okay, why don't you let me come and rescue you? He was my classmate. I said, how long will it take you from Abeokuta to here with your small ferret vehicle? So probably 2 hours. I said, no, it will be too late. So he said, oh, by the way, Lieutenant Magoro was my classmate to school too. Was in Ibadan. Why don't you contact him? Because I didn't know anybody in Ibadan. I didn't know anywhere. That was the first time to go to Ibadan. So I tried to reach Magoro. The one obvious person I could reach was adjutant of the battalion. It's easier because he's the only one who's approved telephone. Fortunately for me, that time was also the same school with me, was an ex-Bida. One lieutenant, then he was lieutenant, he later, I think he was a Colonel Garba Dada. So I called. He said, okay, I'll send Magoro for you. But this it was I'll look for Magoro and send him. Now, in the meantime, around 5 or so thereabout, the Supreme Commander decided it's time we left the place. So he said we should send driver to bring vehicles to take us. We sent drivers. They never came back. Every driver we sent never came back. After the drivers finished, we started sending orderlies. And finally, the orderlies, there used to be one Sergeant Major Umaru. He was Supreme Commander's very, very, very loyal orderly. They're always together, probably from Congo. By the Supreme Commander was also commanded also the United Nations forces in Congo. I think he was the first black African to command the United Nations force. So he said, send Umaru. Because we told him nobody's coming back. So we sent Umaru. But never came back. The situation was becoming bad. So he said, why don't you go officers to check? So I said, okay, Andrew, you go. So we sent Andrew Wanko to go. Andrew Wanko went and never came back. So it means there were only three of us left in the wing, and Fajwi and Ironsi on the other side. So he said, why don't you go yourself? I said, yes, sir. This is about around getting to 7 or so. So I got up. As I was going, unfortunately for me, as I was reaching the quarter guard, the police and other staff, civilian staff, like the principal staff officer, the pressman, and the lot were coming in from outside to escort us to Mapo Hall, where we're going to have the address, because they didn't know what was happening. As they were coming, I was coming. So it was like I called for reinforcement or support, and I came to receive them. So both the ones that are coming in and me who was coming to check were all grabbed and bundled into guard room, pushed into the guard room at the government house, at the gate guard room. It was there I saw what happened. So everyone we sent was captured and pushed into the guard room. That's why nobody was coming back. And that's why we could not escape. And they were there. Then suddenly we saw Captain or Major Tiwa Najima then, with one officer, Joshua Onaja, I think Onaja or somebody like that. They went to the main house. And after a while, they came out with Ironsi and Fajwi, walking peacefully, as if they were friends. And when they came, they were asked to jump into the Land Rover, the two of them. And this time the guard room is opened. And the three of us, there we also found the ADC, Fajwi's ADC, Umar. He was not killed. That's another story. One of the one who was shot is another person. So that's three of us plus two, that's five. Well, all the soldiers were asked to jump into the Land Rover.
Along with the Supreme Commander?
The Supreme Commander and the governor.
And the governor.
That's making five of us inside Land Rover. We sat inside Land Rover. And unfortunately, this is where the problem began to surface. But when we got into the Land Rover, there was no officer. No officer. All the officers just disappeared from the government house. But we are whisked away inside Land Rover along a wall or somewhere road.
Who were in front of the Land Rover?
Oh, Sir Major. Oh, Sir Major, Staff Sergeant. They are in charge now. The NCO, no officer. And that's why the coup went out of control. When we got there, we are driving. Then we got a small forest then on the left. I remember it vividly. As Sir Major said, let's stop here. So they stopped. And when they stopped, they said, the five of us should come out. When we came out, Sir Major said, let's finish them and go back. We have other things to do. The Sir Major said, so here on this road, he said, yes, this place is too open. They started talking and disagreeing. Finally, the Staff Sergeant took initiative and cocked his machine gun and took a step backwards and put his hand on the trigger. The Sergeant Major got the message. I said, no, sir. He said, okay, let's go back. So we entered the Land Rover again, the five of us, because the Staff Sergeant has disagreed with his boss. So we entered, we were driving until we reached a railway crossing. It was a level crossing that I don't know whether it still is. We turned right. Normally railway lines have got also always footpaths. We turned right, we must have done probably for about a kilometer or 2 kilometers. Then we stopped. While we stopped, and God will have it, the other adjutant was just linked up the tail of the convoy. So when we stopped, the Sir Major said we should come out. Now Sir Major is in control. So we came out. We were coming out, the other was here, was coming in. He said, Sir Major, why are you taking these officers? He said, sir, we're bringing them here to finish them and go back. He said, no, I'm taking these 3 officers back with me. And for the 2 other senior officers, await further orders. The Sir Major was murmuring kind of disapproval, but apparently Dada was a very strong adjutant in the battalion. And finally he lost temper. He said, Sir Major, he said, sir, I said, I'm taking these 3 officers back. And if you insist on killing them, you better step with me first. He said, Abi Umar, Sani, Andrew, jump into my Land Rover. And we were jumping into his Land Rover. He said, I'll keep these 2 senior officers and await further orders. That was his words, await further orders. He said, yes, sir, and grumbled. And we jumped into the Land Rover. And we were just jumping in the Land Rover, even before that I came back into the Land Rover, there was a salvo of fire. Shots. So he went back, he rushed back. He said, Sami, what happened? He said, no, the officer was trying to run away. That was Fajwi. So in actual fact, he killed Fajwi when we were there. I did not see the body, but I had the shots. Then he said, okay, keep this senior officer and wait other orders. Don't do anything. Await further orders. This is what I just. So he said, fine. Then we drove off. I don't know what happened after that. Nobody, except the NCOs, all the soldiers, will say how Ironsi died. There was no officer to testify. We're not there. But later on, Dada told me the plan, if it had worked well, was to take both Fajwi and both the governor and the Supreme Commander to either Ilorin or Bida prisons. Not to kill them. But I think the plan flopped because the officers lost control. And that was the end of that episode. And that was the beginning of the crisis.
Now let me take us back a little bit. You said the Supreme Commander was with his son, Thomas.
Oh, yes.
And Thomas was a student in England who came for holiday.
Mm-hmm.
He later became, I knew him in the foreign ministry, later he became an ambassador.
Even minister.
A minister later. So what happened to Thomas?
Interesting, because if you notice, of the 3 ADCs that we came with, only 2 I've been talking about, Andrew Wanko and myself. The Timothy Pan is a cop, a policeman, was there. So there were only 2 who were left in the government house. I got Anderson after everything settled and I went back to Lagos, that Timothy knew what was happening because he's a very experienced cop. After some time, when everything died down, all the noises, all the screams, no firing, by the way, in government house, except that first one, up to the time we left. He said to Thomas, Thomas, now I'm with you. There are only 2 of us. So it is my duty to take you back to your mom. And that's what I will do. So do what I tell you and then we'll go back. Ultimately, Timothy Palm took Thomas back to Lagos. Through, obviously, Timothy Palm was a SIB police, Special Intelligence Branch police. So he knows lots of tricks of police. And I think he used one of the tricks. And they went back safely to Lagos. And Thomas was taken back to his mom.
So, what type of relationship do you have now with the Ironsi family?
Oh, I've got very good relationship. Very good. From the wife to the children, to Thomas too. Very good. He calls me uncle. They all call me uncle. And if there's anything about them, they invite me, they tell me what's happening. Like now, the 60th anniversary, they are planning for it. And they told me, and Thomas called me and told me that they are planning a 60th anniversary for the death of their dad, and we should do whatever we can do to help. So we did. Our relationship with them is good.
Well, what a tale, what a story, sir.
What a narrow miss.
What a near miss. Have you had nightmares shortly after these tragedies?
Oh, yes, I had nightmares. Great nightmares. Because you see, when you are faced with soldiers, especially drunken soldiers, who lost, and no officer to tell them what to do, is the most dangerous thing to do. And the situation which we had, because these soldiers broke into government house cellars, they were drinking whiskey in the bottle. In a bottle. And branches, so they were not themselves, really. So anything could happen. So quite honestly, I always said to myself, on July 29th, 1966, every day of my life is a bonus. Life became, at that time, life lost meaning because you just see people anyhow. And talking, nothing more frightening or worrying or worrisome than somebody right in your eye, a subordinate of yours, deciding about your life and death right in front of you. That is at my level, as a very junior officer there. I wonder what the 2 senior officers felt about it. A sergeant major and a staff sergeant discussing their future, their life and death, and the death of all of us. It's worrisome, it's worrying, it's frightening. You wouldn't understand it. But when you are faced with a barrel of a gun point blank, and you know these people meant business, and then by the time we went to the other place where Faiji was finally killed, you can see it was no joke. It's not a tea party. It's not a joke. It's not a fun. It's not a shooting range exercise. No, it's a real life bullet. Real. So really, I think one has many days.
Now, sir, on a final note, you went through civil war. You got shot. And it's evident by the way you slightly limp up till now. What happened?
After the coup, which toppled my boss, I was briefly in the State House, then later went back. I was posted back to my battalion. But by that time, for those who might remember, my 1st battalion has all the non-Igbo soldiers and officers of 1st battalion then were moved to Ikeja cantonment to form 6th battalion. So I joined them. And when I joined them, I was made the training officer of the battalion. And this was around November, December 1966. By the time war became evident, the government, in their wisdom, decided to send in ex-servicemen, and NA, Native Authority policemen. You wouldn't know, some of you may not know Native Authority policemen. We use each Native Authority that is like local government today, used to have their own police, who are asked to train to make them soldiers ready for war. So we started training them in Ikeja. And when the war broke out in July 1966, we started, 1967. By that time, we are getting ready to bring our first troops with the battalion to move. Our battalion, which is about 600, 700 people, was overnight literally built up to almost 3,000 people, 2,000 plus, because of police, NA police, and ex-servicemen. And those formed the nucleus of the then 3rd Marine Commando Division under Benjamin Adekunle. And on the 24th of July, 1967, we are going to launch the first Black Africa beach landing. It was scruffy, but it worked. It was scruffy landing, but it worked. Beach landing with World War I craft is not easy. Troop craft is not easy, but we made it. So first nucleus of 3rd Marine Commando was from 6th Battalion. 6th Battalion was from 1st Battalion of the Nigerian Army. And from then, the war went on. From Boni, after taking over Boni, we moved on to Calabar. I was left in Boni as sector commander. Then from there, when the war came, I got shot. I left Boni and came back. That's it.
How was it like? You mentioned Captain Okonkwo and so on.
Captain?
No.
The only captain I mentioned is Sylvester Onyekwe. The ADC.
Yeah, Onyekwe. Yeah. You have Igbo officers who are
ADC then.
Yes. But now, when the war started, you have Igbo officers in Biafra.
Yes.
And Many of them were your friends,
Oh, yes.
colleagues.
Oh, yes.
How was it like fighting each other?
It was terrible because, for instance, there used to be this popular officer called J.J. Brown. J.J. Brown was the 1st Battalion with us. And there was specific instruction that we must go and look for J.J. Brown for all sectors, wherever he was, to rescue him. Because he was a very exciting officer. It wasn't a war. Of course, government said it was police action. Yes, we started as police action. And that, I wish it remained so. But war is not a game of football or rugby. It's a serious affair. But then, of course, degenerated. The good thing is, at the end of the day, after the war, J.J. Brown was found alive and well, and was rescued. And he even rose later on after we were staff college with him together in Jaji. And after some time, he became, I think, after retirement, he became a king in Opobo or somewhere like that. So you can see it was not a war which we really liked, especially in 1st Battalion, because we were so close. We had been there. We had good relationship with our colleagues. Probably that's why the coup of January, nothing happened in Enugu. Nothing happened in Enugu. Even the July coup, nothing happened. Nothing. Nobody was injured in Enugu at all. I think because of the good relationship which the officers and men had then with the colleagues with their colleagues. Also, we thought it was a temporary affair. But then, as politics played a key role in determining what happened. Because otherwise, I don't think the soldiers were really keen to go to war. No. We're not keen to go to war. Of course, we believe they were colleagues, but it were, politics came in. And power is very exciting. Everybody wanted power. I think it was a power game, and the soldiers were used as pawns on a chessboard. If you play chess, and you know pawn, when your queen or king is threatened, throw your pawn. And that's how we're used.
Thank you very much, sir. Well, you have had it all. There's nothing for me to add except to express our deep and sincere appreciation to our guest, our father, our mentor, for this incisive analytical aspect of tragic part of Nigerian history. So once again, we are most grateful, and we believe younger people will have had a better understanding of where we are coming from, where we are now, and how we can make Nigeria better. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Good.